everyone is all right. Happy Thursday. Welcome to my channel, Simply Michelle. Happy to have you. Welcome, all my darlings. Yes, and today's live, I'm just working on my watch hours, of course. So, welcome in and thumbs up the video as you come in and spend some time. Also, leave me a message. Come on, I'll try run your guys. Welcome to my channel, Simply Michelle. I'm happy to have you. If you're here for the first time, thank you for joining us. Reading the story called Chance at Love, written by moi, of course. Last video, we see where Greg was trying to confess something to Amora, but Amara, being her diplomatic and orthodox self, kind of tell him, all right, easy, Greg, you don't have to, try and tell me everything all in once. Somebody is confessing that they have been loving somebody else for a while, one-sided or not. Of course, as a woman, you're going to be interested, you want to know what? But no, Amara kind of tell him, all right, hold up, right, so you don't have to tell me everything at once. So let us see what is happening this week. Yes, with this chance of love. Is there a chance? What is happening? Let us see. So without itching, let's get right into it. Chapter 31. Truth and Shadows. Greg sat on the veranda, the sun dipping low over Negro's horizon, painting the waves in molten gold. Amora was beside him, legs curled under her, a book half forgotten in her hands. The breeze carried the scent of the sea and the faint smoke from the evening grills. And for a moment, the world felt still, cocooned around them. But Greg's chest felt tight. He had spent weeks enjoying this fragile, tender closeness with Amara, the small domestic cities of their life together, the laughter, the quiet conversations, and the stolen touches. Yet, the weight of an old scent pressed on him, the part of his heart he had never shared, a love that had shapen him in ways he was only beginning to understand. He took a deep breath, his fingers brushing against hers. Amara, there's something I need to tell you. Something about my past, he said. Her head lifted, curiosity glimmering in her eyes. Okay, she said softly. I'm listening. Greg hesitated, the words caught in the turbulence of memory and guilt. Before Boston, before everything, there was someone. Hey, Miss Gay. Oh my God. Welcome, Miss Gay. Welcome. A flicker of unease crossing her face. Greg saw it, but pressed on. Yeah, welcome, Miss Gay. Good morning, Simple Michelle. And everyone in the chat, thumbs up down. Bless you so much. Loving her right back. Oh my God, Miss Gay. I'm glad to see you're out. Even though I know that you came out last week, but you have difficulty still with internet and so because of the light in Westmoreland. I understand the run-ins because the same thing is happening to my family there. As I said, I have two brothers that lost everything, their house and everything, so they're now staying in their father's main house along with my sisters and so but I know the run-ins. But it's good to see. It's good to see that you're not letting the situation holding you down. And so I see you post a video also. I only see two chickens in the video, so I don't know what happened to the rest, but I can imagine friendship.
but be encouraged,
She
and
she have
just keep
already
holding the faith.
established
I
a
know that you and
line
your family are
that I
trying,
couldn't cross.
trying
That in order
people,
for us to be
and I
friends,
know that
it had
the
to
Lord will
be
work it out.
that no intimate feelings involved. Family are the life we were building
And
around each
yes, I
other.
did
And
inquire on
over time, it blossomed
Instagram,
into something
but I realized that
beautiful
you weren't
in
up.
another
But
way.
I think a
A
week
true
or two or
friendship,
three after
a
Mika had
community I
responded,
helped build.
I had gotten through
She's
to
married
Mika.
now,
So,
happily,
I know
and
it's gonna take a while.
I stepped
It's gonna
away.
take a while for
I
normalcy.
ran.
But
I felt I needed to
my
start over
family,
somewhere
they
else,
are
away
encouraging
from
me, telling
everything
me
I
that
loved
once they
but
have
could
life,
not
they have
fully
hope.
claim.
So it make the
Express
situation,
Greg.
yeah, I mean, it ease the stress for a minute,
Amara's
but
eyes
we still
glimmered.
know that the basic necessities are
Amara's eyes
needed,
glimmered with conflicting
and so
emotions.
keep the
Her
faith.
fingers tightened
Mistakes,
slightly
oh
around
no, I
his.
can't get
And
our problem
what does
get
that mean
get
for
us done
us,
right.
Greg?
And oh yes,
She
yeah man, he
whispered.
will. He
Greg
will.
shook his head.
Like I tell many
It
persons, as
means
much as I'm
that
in
my
Kingston
heart,
and we didn't get
my
any damage
capacity for
like
love,
that, you know,
well,
I know
was
that
already
I
growing.
am not celebrating Christmas this year
Learning before I met
because I
you.
want to go and look for my
But
siblings and
that
my
love
stepfather.
never
And
diminished
just
what
to
I
know
feel
that,
for you.
their
I
side
didn't
is
come
like
here to
that. There's
replace
no
anyone.
way I
Let's
could
just get that
really
straight.
say I'm celebrating
I came
anything.
here to
So,
build something new,
yeah,
something
just
real
gonna look
with
for them
you,
and see what is what
Amara.
and what can be done. But
Amara's
be
chest
encouraged, Miss
tightened.
Again. It's really good to
There
see
was
you.
a
Make my
spark of
morning. I
jealousy
know that I was
she
watching your
hadn't
videos,
expected
your
to
short videos
feel,
you
a
post, and it
shadow of
warms my
doubt
heart.
she hadn't
But
realized
just seeing
existed.
you here this morning, knowing that it's not
It's
an easy
just,
thing, but you're
I
trying.
wonder
I
if I
really
can ever
appreciate you.
compare to
And
that love,
it's a
Greg.
blessing to know that your family,
Greg turned to
in
her
spite of the
sharply,
situations and
taking
what are
both her
happening,
hands
that
in
you guys
his.
are alive.
You don't have to
Hey, Sister
compare.
Blessed.
That is not what I'm
Thank you.
asking
Thank you
at
for the
all.
thumbs up. Thank
That
you,
was my
my darlings, for
past.
the thumbs up.
You are my
Appreciate you
present.
all. Yeah,
You
and a
are
lot of
what I'm
persons have
living
been asking
for.
for you,
You are my
on
choice
the
every
streets.
single day,
But
Amara.
by now, if they're paying
The
attention,
intensity of his
they know
gaze,
that you and
the
your family were
sincerity in his
saved
voice,
and things that God be
disarmed
praised.
her. Slowly, she let go of the jealousy, though the pang remained. A reminder that love was complex, and hearts weren't simply things. They spent the evening talking, sometimes in silence, sometimes laughing at small things. Shared memories, playful teasing, little glimpses into who they were as individuals. Greg's honesty had created a new intimacy, one that was raw and tender, binding them closer together. And for the first time in a long while, Greg felt the quiet thrill of challenge rising alongside the warmth of love. A reminder that love, even in paradise, was never without its twist. Chapter 32. The call that stirred. Ooh. The soft hum of the ceiling fan blended with the gentle crash of waves against Negro's shore. Greg sat in the new living room, legs stretched out on the plushed rug, sipping the last of his coffee when Amara's phone buzzed again. "This is Jonathan," she said softly into the phone, her voice warm but slightly formal as she greeted him. Greg felt a flicker in his chest, almost imperceptible at first. He had just shared his deepest truth with her, the past, his love for Tessa, his guilt, and she had received it with grace. Yet now, as he watched her smile, laugh highly, and tilt her head while listening, he felt that old uncomfortable tug of jealousy. "You are back in Jamaica?" Amara asked, voice soft and curious. "Oh, that's wonderful. How long will you be here?" Greg tried to distract himself, focusing on the patterns in the rug, the faint smell of the sea breeze, but his mind kept returning to the sound of her laughter. Why is it that every time someone from her past calls, my chest feels like it's being pressed? He murmured under his breath, asking himself. Amara glanced at him, a curious smile touching her lips. Everything all right over there? She shook his head quickly. Yes, of course, I'm fine. But the knot in his stomach said otherwise. Jonathan's voice carried easily, though through the speaker, warm, familiar. He had a calm that immediately put people at ease, the kind that had made him such a beloved figure in their shaped circle at Edna Manley. As Amara spoke to him, her expressions emanated and light. Greg found himself quietly tense, struggling to reconcile his protective instincts with the trust he had for Amara. It's just him, he whispered to himself. That guy, just an old friend I know. Nothing more, but still, it annoys the hell out of me. Greg whispered to himself quietly. Minutes stretched into an hour. Jonah recounted stories from their college days, people they knew, the dances, the performances, the long nights of painting, rehearsals, and laughter. Amora laughed at every story, and Greg noticed how animated she became, her eyes sparkling with nostalgia and delight. He felt a pang. Part of him wanted to hear her laugh, to be a part of the shared memories, but other part felt like sting of jealousy. He hadn't anticipated. His chest tightened as he watched her respond with warm familiarity and ease to Jonathan's teasing tone. Amara finally looked at him mid conversation. Greg, you're awfully quiet. As she tilted the phone to her side and covered receiver, preventing Jonah from hearing. You have been quiet for a while now. Is everything okay? She inquired. I am fine, repeated Greg, though his jaw was tight. Just enjoying watching you talking, he said. I chuckled through the phone. Hey now, I don't want to distract you from your life there, Amara. Just thought I'll reconnect while I'm back in Jamaica. It's been a long time, said Jonah. Of course, Amara said kindly. I'd love to catch up properly when you are free. But life here keeps me busy, I must let you know. Greg exhaled, rubbing his temples, the mixture of jealousy and protectiveness stirring inside of him. Busy? Yes, life does get busy, he murmured mostly to himself. Greg felt out of place, as if he was being a third wheel in the room. As the call wound down, Jonathan promised to meet soon before he returned abroad, of course. Amara hung up, her face soft and apologetic. Oh, sorry, Greg. I didn't mean to spend so long on the phone with Jonah. I thought his name was Jonathan, said Greg. Yes, his name is Jonathan, but, as close friends, we call him Jonah. And there was an awkward pause. Truly, Gregory, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to. I mean, he's just an old friend. She protests. I know, said Greg, forcing a smile. I guess it's hard seeing how easily you connect with people sometimes. Makes me realize how much I'm still learning to trust you. Amora reached over, taking his hand. You don't need to worry. I am here, aren't I, with you. That won't change. She tried to reassure. Fred nodded, but deep down he felt the unease still shimmering. Jonathan was coming, and soon. He hadn't known exactly what to expect, and that uncertainty made his chest tight with protectiveness and a touch of fear. Chapter 33. The Waiting Game. The next few days were a mix of domestic bliss and quiet tension. Greg and Amora spent their mornings putting final touches on the new home, leaning, laughing as they debated paint colors and furniture arrangements. They cooked together, danced in the kitchen to old reggae tunes, and walked the short stretch to the beach at sunset, one of their favorite things to do. Beneath the laughter, the anticipation of Jonathan's arrival lingered like an undercurrent. Greg found himself watching Amara a little more closely, noticing the way her eyes lit up when she recounted a funny memory from school or spoke to an old performance. The small, easy bond she had with Jonathan began to stir a protective edge in him, a desire to shield their cocoon, their fragile intimacy. Amara said one evening, as they sat on the veranda of the dinner, I have been thinking. Jonah wants to see me before he leaves. I am thinking tomorrow evening, maybe. Greg stiffened slightly, masking it with a nod. Sure, that's fine. She noticed his hesitation, but chose not to press. I will be back before dark, she added, leaning in to kiss him slightly. I'll tell him it's just a quick catch up, she said. Greg exhaled quietly after she left the room, the mix of anxiety and protectiveness knotting his stomach. A quick catch up. Ah, I hope so. I hope this doesn't complicate things, he thought to himself. The hours stretched. He busied himself arranging medical equipment for the upcoming practice, running errands, anything to keep his mind from spiraling. And yet, every time he thought of Jonathan's charm, his smooth confidence, the way he had been part of Amara's life for years, Greg felt the edge of insecurity sharper. By late afternoon, he watched the sun dip into the horizon from the veranda, the ocean glowing gold. He reminded himself that Amara had chosen him, that she was building a life with him. But the waiting, the unknown, was almost unbearable. He paced the room, running scenarios in his mind. What if Jonathan tried to impress her? What if? What if he reminded her of something before Greg arrived in Jamaica? God damn it. I have to stop doing this to myself. How the hell did I allow myself to become so insecure? Thought Greg. But deep down, he also knew he couldn't control her past, nor could he erase it. He could only trust the bond they had cultivated, the cocoon of love they were carefully building, and he could prepare himself to step into conversation with honesty, confidence, and heart. As twilight descended over Negril, the first faint headlights approached the driveway. Greg's heart tugged, not just from anticipation, but from the prospective jealousy pulse that had been simmering all week. The moment of truth was approaching. He realized that love, as fragile and beautiful as it was, required courage, not just to give, but to trust. Even when shadows of the past threatened to intrude. Chapter 34. The arrival of the past. The Negro sun had began to dip beneath the horizon, casting long shadows across the new home's veranda. Greg paced the room, his heart steady, drum beat in his chest. He had known this day would come, the day Amara's paths would physically intersect with the cocoon they had built. Yet nothing could have fully prepared him for the flutter of nerves and protectiveness coursing through him. The gravel crunch under tires, announcing the arrival of Jonathan. Greg's hand instinctively tightened around the edge of the counter as he watched Amora walk toward the small gate to greet him. She looked radiant, casually elegant in a flowing dress, her smile warm as she welcomed her old friend. Jonah, she said carefully, it is so good to see you're back. Greg remained in the background, arms crossed, chest tight, with the familiar pull of jealousy and protective instinct. His gaze followed every gesture, every laugh, every casual glance Jonathan gave Amora. Jonathan turned, his dark eyes meeting Greg's for the first time. There was a brief pause, an almost imperceptible evaluation. Two men sizing each other up, each measuring stakes and boundaries. Greg's muscle tensed, but he forced a neutral smile. Gregory, Jonathan said smoothly, extending a hand. I have heard so much about you. I am Jonathan. My friends call me Jonah. Greg took the hand firmly, hiding the flicker of tension. All good things, I hope, he said, letting a thin line of humor cut through the initial stiffness. Jonathan's smile was genuine but carried a subtle curiosity. I would like to think so. I have known Amor for years, of course, but now it's nice to meet the man she talks about, said Jonathan. Greg's jaw tightened, imperceptible. The man she talks about? A subtle treat wrapped in politeness. Yet he reminded himself to stay grounded. Amara had chosen him. She was here with him. Amara, oblivious to the silent war of glances, ushered Jonathan onto the veranda. Sit, please. Let me get you some drinks. It's been ages since we last saw each other, Jonah. As she moved inside, Greg's eyes remained on Jonathan. There was charm there, yes, but no danger. Still instinctively, he found himself seated slightly closer to Amara than necessary, a silent protective barrier. Jonah leaned back, stretching his legs casually. This is beautiful. I didn't realize you two were so settled here. Greg forced a relaxed nod. We have been busy. Jonathan chuckled, glancing at Amara. I bet you have been busy keeping him out of trouble, Amara. Amara laughed a soft, melodic sound that made Greg's chest tighten. He's not that bad, she teased, though he does try to be difficult sometimes. Greg shot her a playful glare, masking the flutter of unease in his chest. Difficult? Never, said Greg. Jonathan's eyes sparkled, and Greg realized with a small pang he was assessing Amara, seeing the ease and closeness she displayed, judging the space he now occupied in her life. As drinks were poured, conversation meandered through old memories, school performances, mutual friends, late-night painting sessions. Amara laughed easily at Jonathan's stories, and Greg could feel the stirrings of tension building, a protective heat rising within him. Jonathan, you haven't changed a bit, Amora said fondly. Still charming, still troublemaking, I see. Greg cleared his throat. he sounds dangerous, he muttered under his breath. hearing a curious look from Jonathan. Jonathan smirked. Dangerous. Only to those who can't handle a little nostalgia and fun. Greg felt his lips tighten. Fun? Nostalgia? And still standing between us, he leaned back, slightly allowing himself to listen, observe, and control the small edge of jealousy that threatened to flare. As the evening deepened, subtle tests of trust emerged. Jonathan would glance at Amora, make a slight joke, and Greg would feel that familiar protective pulse, wanting to assert his place without seeming possessive. Yet, he also felt the responsibility to trust Amora, to allow her space, to not let his insecurities dictate the dynamic. Eventually, Amora led Jonathan on a tour of the property. Greg followed at a measured distance, slightly watching in every smile, every shared glance. He realized that his protective instincts weren't merely jealousy, they were love, fierce and fragile, rooted in cocoon they had built together. By the time they returned to the veranda, the tension had evolved into a subtle understanding. Jonathan had met Greg, assessed him, and now seemed to respect the quiet claim he had on Amora's life. Greg exhaled slowly, tension easing, but not fully gone. Amora caught his eye across the table. You are quiet, she teased slightly, her hand brushing his. Greg smiled faintly, warmth returning to his chest. Just observe it, he said, letting the words carry the dual meaning. Jonathan's laugh rang out like and assuming. Light and unassuming. Greg, you have got a good thing here. I can see why she's with you, man. Greg's lip twitched into a controlled smile. I intend to keep it that way, he replied, voice calm, but carrying a quiet edge of protectiveness. As the night wound down, the three sat together. The tension diffused, but the undercurrent takeable. Greg realized that trust, love, and friendship could coexist, even when shadows of the past loomed nearby. The cocoon had held, but he knew the coming days would test it further, and he would need every ounce of patience, courage, and honesty to navigate it. And for the first time, he allowed himself to quietly hope that the past could coexist with the present without threatening the fragile, precious bond he shared with Amora, formations and surprises. The morning after Jonathan's visit, the sun rose lazily over Libreville, painting the sky in soft shades of apricot and rose. Greg and Amora lingered over breakfast on the veranda, the gentle crash of the waves accompanying their silence. The air was tender but heavy, a residue of previous evening's subtle tension. Greg stirred his coffee slowly, eyes on the horizon. Though his mind replayed Jonathan's charm, his ease, the way he had fit so effortlessly into Amara's world, he had done his best to remain calm, to observe rather than react. But the protective pulse in his chest had not fully subsided. Amora noticed. She reached across the table, her hand brushing his. Greg, I can tell you are thinking about it, about him. Greg exhaled, meeting her gaze. I just don't want to feel like I'm intruding, or I'm an intruder. That maybe I don't measure up to someone who has been in your life longer, he expressed. Amora smiled softly, her thumb stroking the back of his hand. Gregory, you totally need to measure up. You are my life now. The carpool we have built, it is ours. Joanna is just a friend from the past. Nothing more and nothing less. She reassured. Greg felt a warmth spread through him. A quiet reassurance that settled some of the tension he had carried since the moment Amora had taken that phone call. You mean that? He asked. I do, she said firmly, eyes shining. You are the one I want beside me. You are my present and my future. Not Jonathan, not anyone else. You. You, Greg. Greg exhaled again, this time with relief. He had not realized how much he had held back from fully trusting Amara's heart. Even as he had bared his own vulnerabilities, now he could feel a part of the carpool building thicker, warmer than before. Later that morning, Amara picked up her phone to reassure her best friend, Jonathan. Hey, she said, her voice casual and kind. It's been great hearing from you, but I want you to know something. Greg is very important to me, hey? We are building something here. You are my friend, always, but he is the one I'm with. I hope you understand that, Jonah. She hung up the call, feeling the subtle weight of her own words. Looking at Greg, she saw a shadow of unease lingering in his eyes. See, she said softly, he's just my friend. You don't have to worry about anything else. You are the one who matters. Greg reached for her hand, drawing her close. You didn't have to do that, you know. But anyway, thank you, he murmured. I think I needed to hear that, to be honest. But don't you think it's a little much, calling him like that? And no, Greg, I don't. I just want you to know how much you mean to me. The day unfolded quietly, their laughter mixing with chores around the house, little debates over silly things, and playful teasing as they finalized the last touches of Greg's new home. There was an ease between them now, the kind that only comes after honesty and reassurance have been fully shared. By late afternoon, Amora reminded Greg of a promise they had made to visit her grandmother in Mandeville before she returned overseas. They packed a small overnight bag and drove straight into the hills, the winding roads giving them a glimpse of the beautiful mountains and tall coconut trees. The conversation between them was light, interspersed with gentle touches and shared smiles, each one a reminder of the cocoon they have been cultivating. Her grandmother's mansion, placed elegantly on a hilltop, welcomed them with the soft scent of gardenias and the sound of hummingbirds flittering among the flower beds. Amara's grandmother greeted them warmly, pulling them into a warm hug that carried the years of love and encouragement. Ah, my child, come on in, she said, ushering them inside. You must stay the night. I will not let you leave without a proper goodbye. And Amora, she looked at her granddaughter, a mischievous glint in her eyes. I have a surprise for you. Something I have been planning, something I hope will help you move forward with your art, said her grandma. Amora eyes widened with curiosity and excitement. Really, Grandma? What is it you have up your sleeve now? Her grandma nodded. Yes, you. You have so much talent, my dear child, but you need support, encouragement, and sometimes a little push. I have arranged something special for you, a scholarship opportunity at a summer art workshop abroad, fully funded, and a mentor I know personally will guide you. I want you to keep following your heart, child, and never let anyone make you doubt your gift or yourself. Encourage Grandma. And for that son of mine, that pig-headed star of yours, pay him no mind. He had been living his life, and like I tell him regularly, to leave my grandchild alone and let her be. So this is your time. Should you accept, of course, said Grandma. Tears glimmered in Amara's eyes, mixture of gratitude and awe. She turned to Greg, who had been standing slightly absorbed in the moment. He smiled gently, squeezing her hand. See, you have people who believe in you, he said softly. Amora leaned into him, the weight of the past weeks, their secrets, confessions, and reassurances, now balanced by the tangible support of family and love. And I have you too, she whispered. Greg kissed the top of her head, feeling swelled up with pride and tenderness. Always, he murmured. The evening was filled with warmth and laughter, and quiet reflection over dinner. Stories were shared, plans discussed, and the band between the three grew. Greg, Amora, and her grandmother strengthened. The grandmother surprised had ignite a spark in Amora's aura, one that Greg recognized instantaneously, and he felt the privilege to witness it. As they prepared for bed, settling in the guest rooms with the comfort of familial love surrounding them, Greg whispered into Amara's ears, "You are incredible. Never forget that. You are my incredible too," she said. Amara put a pile of pillows between them, with knowing very well that that's the line that should not be crossed. Greg looked at her and smiled. Amara smiled, the quiet glow of the room reflecting the unspoken promise between them. The cocoon they had built, tested by honesty and reassurance, had grown stronger. Outside, the hills of Mandeville were bathed in moonlight, serene and steady, a reminder that love, trust, dreams could flourish, even amidst the subtle complexities of past ties and protective instincts. And in this quiet of the night, as Amora drifted to sleep, dreaming of her art and her future, Greg stayed awake for a while longer, thinking of their cocoon, their shared dreams, and the uncharted territory that laid ahead. Chapter 36. Farewell, promises, and proposal. The morning sun poured through with the wide windows of Greg's new home, warming the living room in a honey-eyed glow. The scent of coffee, the faint tug of the sea mingled in the air as Greg sat with a newspaper he wasn't really reading. His mind, as usual, drifted elsewhere, this time to Jonathan. The phone rang, breaking the comfortable quiet. Amara answered first, her voice bright as always, though it tinged with curiosity. "Hello?" "Amara." Jonathan's voice came crispy yet warm. "I hate to do this, but I am leaving for Paris a little sooner than planned. I wanted to say goodbye before I go." Amara's brow arched. "Oh, that's sudden. But of course, safe travels. When do you leave?" "In a couple of days, but there's something I would like to say to Greg personally, if he doesn't mind," Jonathan added, a note of hesitation threatening his words. Amara paused, sensing the nuisance in his voice, in his tone, but gave a small nod. "Sure, I'll let him know. I'll hand the phone over. Hey Greg, it's Jonah. He wants to say something to you." Greg gave her the question look. Greg took the phone, careful but alert. "Hello, Jonathan," he said, trying to mask the flicker of curiosity and the protective instinct he always felt around this man. "Greg," Jonathan began, his tone serious at time, "I owe you an apology. I hope you'll hear me out," said Jonathan. Greg raised an eyebrow. "Go ahead." "I may have tested you a little, indirectly, perhaps without realizing it. But my only intention was to see if you were the upstanding man Amara always spoke about. I needed to know she's in safe hands. And now, after spending time with you and seeing her with you, I can say with certainty, you are. You are exactly who she deserves, Greg. You make her happy. That's all I ever wanted for her. Greg felt a shift inside him, a warmth spreading from his chest. Thank you, he said simply. I appreciate that, Jonah. Jonathan chuckled softly. So now, you finally called me Jonah. Okay, good. That's all I needed to say. And I'll leave you both to continue building this beautiful life you're making. Take care of her, man. Greg, really. And when I return to Jamaica, let's have lunch somewhere meaningful. I would like to get to know the man she loves even better, said Jonathan. Greg smiled and eased settling over him. We'll do that. Safe travels, Jonah. And thank you, really, thank you, said Greg, and the call ended. Greg Laura, her eyes bright with a smile that now carried no shadows. He realized fully that Jonathan's presence had been protected. Not threatening, not more importantly, he understood that Amara's life was entwined with him now, regardless of. Later that afternoon, they sat together at the dining table, sunlight flickering through the windows, creating small patterns on the tablecloth. Amara had prepared a light meal, and the soft clatter of plates, cutlery, punctuated their quiet conversation. Greg, Amara began, careful and gentle, I want to know, my friendship with Jonah is nothing more. I could see he caused you discomfort. I didn't want you to ever feel that uncertainty. And I just want to say I'm sorry. Greg reached across the table, holding her hand. I know. I understand now. And I trust you. Sometimes my mind races when I see you. I see people from your past. But you, Amara, you are my present and my future, he expressed. Amara smiled, the corners of her eyes crinkling. You are very sweet, and you are my present and my future too. That's never in question, she said with a smile. They sat in they sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Amara's expression shifted slightly. Thoughtful, Greg, my grandmother, scholarship after the summer workshop abroad, I will be away for some time. Fully funded, with a mentor guiding me, it's a chance I can't ignore. But it means time apart. Greg nodded slowly, squeezing her hand. I know, and you should go. I will support you, and I can go back and forth if I need to handle things in Boston. This summer can be for you, your growth, and our shared dreams. We will make it work. Distance can't break us, Amara. She exhaled, relief evident in her posture. You really mean that? Of course, said Greg, voice firm. We have already built trust, honesty, and love. A few weeks apart won't undo that. And you will be chasing your dreams. I can't ask you to stay behind for me. But when you are back, we will be right there, stronger than ever. Amara's lips curved into a grateful smile, leaning across the table to press a soft kiss to his hand. You are amazing, Gregory, she said. Greg's heart swelled. The couple they had matured and nourished in, the love, the honesty, the trust, felt ready for the next step. He set down his work, looked into her eyes, and saw the reflection of all he had hoped for. Amora, he said softly, taking both her hands now. There is something I need to do, something I should have done I said before, but the timing didn't feel right. But now it is. Her eyebrows lifted in curiosity, a gentle tremor of anticipation in her expression. I know you don't believe in shocking up before marriage, but I respect that completely. I don't want to rush you. I don't want to pressure you. But he reached into his pocket, pulled out a small, simple ring, holding it between his fingers. I know in my heart that you are the one, the woman I want to share everything with. My life, my dreams, my love. Amora, will you marry me? Amora's eyes widened. Tears gave her with joy. She pressed a hand to her mouth, trying to steady herself, then nodded. Unable to speak at first. Yes, 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 he agreed. I will marry you. Greg slid the ring onto her finger. The simple gold band catching the sunlight.
Welcome,
streaming
Spinning
through the
Hero.
He leaned
Welcome.
across
Happy
the
to have
table,
you.
capturing her in a gently lingering kiss.
Yeah, you
Soft
phone
but
cool. Thank
charged
you.
with love,
Nice.
trust, and the promise of a shared future. They pull apart slightly, hands entwined, smiles radiant. The weight of past secrets, misunderstanding, the distant ties lifted, replaced by the solidity of their love and the adventures that awaited them. And this summer, Amar whispered, we will manage. You will go to Boston if you need to. I will grow as an artist abroad, and we will come back together to each other. Excitement filling her body, her being. Greg nodded. Exactly. And when we do, we will have even more to share, more to dream together. Our cocoon will only grow stronger. Amora's grandmother watching from the doorway as she had came in for the surprise. With a knowing smile, stepped forward and embraced them both. This is how love is meant to be nourished, child. Trust, patience, and courage. You have both found it. And he kissed them both on the forehead and said, now I leave you both, as I have to get myself off this island. It's not our business. As she said her goodbye, the evening settled around them like warm blankets. The distant sea whispering promises of tomorrows filled with dreams, challenges, and a love fully embraced. And for the first time in a long while, Greg felt completely certain his heart, his home, and his future were all here with Amora. Uh, Thank you guys. Yes, to the end of the story for this week. Oh, I'm so happy for Amara and Greg. So yes, guys, the proposal took place. And it's very unorthodox and simple, but I guess that is really Greg and Amara if you look into it. They try to build their own cocoon. You know, with so much happening in Amara's family and Greg's family, they really don't want anybody to rain on their parade, so they have done it the way they want to. And next week to find out, will Amara leave for the United States to further study? How will Greg manage back here in Jamaica on his own? Will he be able to navigate the streets of Negroes on his own without Amara? How well will they do with this long distance thing? Let us see. Stay tuned now. Let us see how it all will go down. And you over there, you can just find the video. Like it up, darlings. Bless. Like I always say, Philippians 4, verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So whatever you find to do today, do it to the best of your ability. Bye bye. Moments. for now, they allowed themselves to laugh. Yeah. So there are previous videos that are ahead that you may need to catch up on so you can follow along with the rest of us in this story. And of course, Greg and Amara, they have been on a journey, the journey of love. So that is what's happening over here. My darlings, let's get right into the story. We're at chapter 26. Threads of budding love. The days melted into one another, like colors on a canvas. Soft strokes of laughter, the comfort of shared meals, evenings of painting and planning. Greg and Amora had slipped into a rhythm that felt startlingly natural, as if they had always belonged in each other's space. It was in the simple things that their closeness deepened. Amora cooked at his new house often, filling it with the scent of curry and thyme, while Greg sat at the table, pretending he wasn't watching the sway of her body as she moved about the kitchen. Sometimes they sat in silence, sketching or writing notes, their knees brushing under the table. Other times they talked for hours, their voice overlapping like waves on the shore. For the first time in years, Greg allowed himself to dream, to be truly happy about forever. The call. One afternoon, as the golden sun dipped low and Amara chopped vegetables for dinner, acting as if she's the perfect wife, not yet married, her phone buzzed at the counter. She wiped her hands and glanced at the screen. A name lit up. Jonah Ellis. Her face softened in surprise. Hey, Jonah, she murmured under her breath, then answered. Amara. A smooth male voice greeted her, familiar yet distant. Long time, you know? Guess who's back in Jamaica, my friend? Asked. Amora laughed lightly, leaning against the counter. Jonah Ellis, why are you acting as if you know patois? You serious? I thought you'll never come back. She dropped into her island accent. Well, Paris was good to me, but there's no place like home. This time, just thought I'll give you a ring. Maybe catch up, grab a drink like old times. Amora hesitated only a second before smiling. I like that. It's been too long, she said. From across the kitchen, Greg stilled, knife in hand, his jaw tightening. Ever so lightly, he hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but Amara tone, it familiar, tinged with warmth, had caught his ear. He hung up. Greg tried to keep his voice even, acting cool and unbothered. Who was that? He asked gently. Amora glanced up, tucking a curl behind her ear. Oh, that was Jonah, my best friend from Edna Manley. We went through the performing arts program together. He later moved away after. Greg set the knife down, slowly studying her. Best friend? He asked. Yes, Amora said simply. Is something wrong with that? She looked at him, turning back to her vegetables. He was, well, he was like a brother to me back then. We were inseparable. inseparable. He supported me through a lot. Greg leaned against the counter, holding his arms. And this is the first time I'm hearing of him? He asked, with a suggestive tone. Amora looked over her shoulders, brow raised. Greg, you haven't exactly told me about every one of your friends, either. The air of truth in her tone stopped. Still, Greg couldn't shake the flicker of unease in his chest. Shadows in the light. Dinner that evening was quieter than usual. Amara hummed as she plated the food, but Greg's laughter was slow to come, his mind circling the name Jonah like a harp over a prey. She noted, of course, she always noted. You were quiet, she said finally, setting a plate in front of him. Greg forced a smile. Just tired. Long day with the contractors. But when Amora reached across the table to squeeze his hand, her eyes lingered at him, searching. He looked down quickly, afraid she read the angle of jealousy he didn't want to admit. Later, as they sat on the porch, Amara curled into his side, her head against his chest. The softness of the moment should have eased him, but instead, it deepened the nagging inside of him. What if Jonah was more than just a friend? What if Amara had once loved him, or worse, still did? The budding romance. Still, in spite of the shadow of Jonah, their romance blossomed. They explored Negril together, late night beach walks, quiet cafe talks in the alleyways, roadside stalls, fried fish and festival. Greg found himself mesmerized the way Amara threw her head back when he laughed, the way her hand always reached for him when they crossed paths. He adored the small things. Her painting tucked against his wall, her earrings left on his nightstand, even though it still puzzled him because they have never slept together. The scent of her hair on his pillow after she knocked on the porch. She was becoming woven into his life, into his home, into him. But beneath it all, Jonah's name lingered like a stone in his shoe. Quiet confrontation. One evening after another day of sitting up his clinic, Greg finally voiced it. So he said carefully as Amora arranged flowers in a vase on his table, Miss Jonathan, when are you going to see him? She glanced up surprised. Seeing him? She asked. Greg cleared his throat. You know, catching up, that's what I meant. That drink he asked about. When will it be? Amara tilted her head, catching the weight in his tone. A slow smile touched her lips. Greg, are you jealous? She asked. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. The warmth in his eyes both teased and softened him. You are, she said gently, crossing the room to stand before him. Gregory James, the brilliant doctor who stood up to his powerful parents, is jealous of an old college friend? She said. Greg sighed, running a hand through his hair, feeling frustrated. I don't like not knowing. You mean more to me than I can say, Amora. I don't want to lose this. Her expression melted, and she cupped his face in her hand. Jonathan is my friend, Greg. That's all. You have nothing to fear. Their lips met in a kiss that silenced the doubts for the moment. At night, as Amara fell asleep on his shoulder, Greg stared into the darkness, listening to the rhythm of her breath. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to let go of the insecurity curling through him. But deep down, he knew one thing. If Jonah was going to be around, Greg will have to face more than his jealousy. He would have to face the question of how deeply he trusted Mara and how much he was willing to risk for his love. Chapter 27. In a world of two. The rhythm between Greg and Amora had become so natural. It startled him at times. What began as single dinners and walks have transformed into something more entwined, a steady weaving of their lives. The morning found them lingering over breakfast. Amara curled into a chair, sketching while Greg scrolled through notes for his clinic. Afternoons drifted into sheer errands, her laughter spilling down shop alleys as she teased him for overthinking the color of curtains. Evening often closed with the two of them stretched out on the veranda of his new home. The Caribbean breeze tugged at their clothes as they spoke of dreams that felt closer each day. Greg was finding joy, not in the grand gestures, but in the ordinary, watching Amara's brow fall into concentration as she painted, or the way she absently sang when cooking, her voice, a low, rich hum that startled something restless inside him. Yet, underneath a current stir, both of them knew it. Their kiss had broken down one wall, that it had also opened new space that never had dared fully enter. Meal. One evening, Amara insisted on making Greg a proper home cooked dinner in his new house. No takeout, no restaurant food, she said, and Mac is very good. Her hands on her hips. You need to know what real food tastes like in your own kitchen, Greg. He grinned, surrendering easily, as long as you don't judge my knife skills if you ask for help. She waved a hand off with a playful roll of her eyes. Just sit, doctor. I called when I need you. The smell soon filled the house, seasoned chicken sizzling in the pan, garlic thyme rising with the steam. Greg sat at the counter, chin resting on his hand, watching her move with grace and precision. There was something intimate about it. Her cooking in his kitchen, her hands preparing food that will fill them both. It makes him feel special. When she finally set the plate before him, Greg took a bite and closed his eyes and murmured, Amora, this is incredible. As your Jamaican fellow man would say, you put your foot in it. She laughed softly, sliding into the chair across from him. It's just dinner. No, Greg said, shaking his head. It's you, and it's perfect. Her smile faltered and softened. For a moment, she simply looked at him, her eyes unreadable. Then the call. Just as the silence between them thickened with meaning, Amara phone rang. She sighed, checking the screen, dreading it was her dad, and her face shifted. Yes, it's my father, she thought, already bracing herself. Watch as she answered, her voice cautious. Within seconds, his chest tightened at the harshness spilling from the other end. So, when are you going to quit that silly hotel job, Amara? Aren't you tired of me calling you about the same old thing? Your mother and I didn't sacrifice everything for you to play around in kitchen and on stages. You should consider becoming a nurse. How long are you going to embarrass us? How long do you expect us to wait? Her knuckles whitened around four. Daddy, please. Aren't you tired of perplexing me about the same thing? Like, I have made up my mind. You know me. You are stubborn. And yeah, I get it from you. You know what you want, Dad. And so do I. And I have made my choice. And frankly, I feel proud of myself. Even if you and Mom don't. Hush, child. But there you go. He cut her off. You have always been stubborn, yes. Do you think your little art will feed you forever? Will it bring you stability? Stop this nonsense and come home to your senses. Her lips trembled as she finally managed. You know what, Dad? Not you. I have to go. And she ended the call, her hands shaking. It took courage, but she did what she had to do. For a moment, silence pressed down heavy. Then Amora crumpled, covering her face with her hands. Greg was beside her in seconds, his arms wrapping around her, pulling her against his chest. She trembled as tears broke free, and he held her tighter, his hand gently stroking her hair. Honestly, this is becoming frustrating. He knows he's not one to judge because his parents are even more toxic. However, Amara, he whispered, his voice thick, you are not a disappointment. And you are not a child. And frankly, I'm proud of you for you ending that call. You are extraordinary. Don't let your dad's word take that away from you. You don't have to take his call all the time either. It is not disrespectful. You just have to let it ring, at least until you're in the frame of mind to deal with what you already know is coming. She buried her face into his arm, clutching his shirt like it was the only thing holding her grounded. When she finally lifted her head, her eyes were wet. As usual, her cheeks flushed. Greg brushed a tear away with his thumb. His touching lingered, as it usually do, wishing he could have wiped away all her sadness. Her gaze locked onto his, raw and vulnerable, and in that instant, words weren't enough. Their lips met as they collided in a kiss. That was nothing like the first time or the second. This one carried urgency, pain, comfort, desire. It was a collision of all the things they had been able to say. Amara melted into him, her hands clutching onto him, as if she was afraid he might vanish. Greg pulled her closer, his own fear dissolving into the sweetness of her surrender. In his mind, he wanted more, but he knew he could not pursue her any further unless, and the thought of it had led him to finally broke off hard, breathless. Because knowing how he feels inside and the passion he's feeling, what it would have led to next. And frankly, he too don't think either of them was ready. The air heavy between them as they stood looking at each other. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. The kiss had said it all. And while the shadows of their past still lingered, their presence was undeniably theirs. 28. A holiday of love. The morning of August 6th dawned bright and warm. The kind of day when the sun glittered like glass under the sun. It was Jamaica's Independence Day, and Negril was alive with color. The streets pulsed with music. Flags fluttered from shop fronts. Children ran with black, gold, and green painted on their faces. For Greg and Amora, it felt like the perfect day to disappear into each other's company. Beach first, then festival, right? Amara declared, her curls bouncing in the sunlight as she tugged the Greg's hand. You need to experience the water when the whole island is celebrated. It's freedom in waves, she boasted. Greg laughed, following her down the path towards the shore. As they passed through the thick crowd on the street, doctor's orders, he asked. Girlfriend orders, she teased, then blushed, realizing what she said. Greg caught the slip, warmth blooming in his chest. He didn't correct her. Instead, he squeezed her hand and let the words sink into him like sunlight. The beach was alive with families, bonfires being set for the evening. Children sitting by the bonfire but not too close as they were being monitored. And music drifted from small speakers tucked under umbrellas. Greg and Amora found their own space a little further down where the crowd thinned and the water stretched wide and blue. So, kicked off her slanders and ran straight into the waves, squealing as the water kissed her ankles. Come on, city boy, she shouted. Grant shook his head with mock reluctance, but stripped down to his swim shorts and followed. The water was cooled against his skin, refreshing in that heat. Amora, she splashed mercifully until he retaliated, chasing her deeper into the waves. For a while, they forgot everything. Parents, secrets, shadows. They were just two people laughing, tumbling into the surf, their bodies almost brushing as they swim side by side, as if they were in a competition, enjoying every minute of crossing the finish line. At one point, Amara dug under the surf, close to him, her face inches from his. Their laughter softened, replaced by the electric pull. Greg's hands stretched forward as they kicked against the tide. This feels, Amara whispered, searching for words. Greg gazed laughed with her, like freedom. He finished her sentence, as if he read her thoughts. She nodded, and their foreheads nearly touched briefly before another wave broke over them, sending them back deeper into the water. As you can see, the smiles all over their faces. By late afternoon, they lay back in their chair and a blanket in the sand, enjoying their jelly coconuts. The festival music began to rise in the distance. Greg Ford was beside him. He frowned when he saw the caller ID. Then he hesitated, not wanting to break the moment, but something in his gut told him to answer. Greg, Ben's voice came fast, urgent but edged with relief. Listen, you won't believe this. Michael and Julie are there in Jamaica. Greg sat up straighter in his chair. What? Here? Now? Yes, they're visiting Montego Bay for a conference, but they're heading back to Boston soon. They want to see you, old friend, before they leave. They said it's important. Greg's pulse quickened. Michael and Julie, two of his closest friends from Boston, people who knew him before the escape, before Amara. Greg, Greg, Ben pressed. They are only here for a couple of days, man. They ask if you can come meet them tonight. Greg glanced at Amora, who was sitting close by. Watching him, her brow furrowed. He turned away slightly, his chest tightening. I will think about it, he said finally. Don't think too long, Ben warned. This could change everything. When the call ended, Greg stared at the phone, torn between dread and longing, between worlds. Amora touched his arm gently. What is it? Greg swallowed. Friends from Boston. They are here. They want to see me before they go tonight. Her face softened. That's good, isn't it? I mean, I know we have plans otherwise, but it must be nice to see people you trust, people from your home, right? Greg hesitated. The truth sat like a stone in his chest. If only she knew how much I have kept from them. And soon, he would have to decide whether to let it in or fight to keep it out.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. It's an important call, so I had to take it. My sister in Westmoreland.
Chapter 29. Echoes of the Past. Greg arrived at a small upscale cafe tucked near the cliffs of Naples just before sunset. The orange light washing over the tables and the gentle sound of waves punctuating the quiet. His pulse was ready and steady, but his stomach churned. Michael and Julie were already inside, waving when they spot him through the window. He stood there for a second, with the beautiful blue turquoise water shining in the back. It had been months since they all been together in Boston. Before the Harvard Hospital, before the escape, before the silence he had imposed on everyone he loved. Now, seeing them in person stirred a mix of nostalgia and unease. Gregory, Julie called, warmly as he stepped inside. It's been too long. Michael rose, enveloping him in a firm hug. Man, you have changed, but you look good, happier than I think, or I thought you would be. Greg swallowed, feeling the lump of old guilt and shame rise. Thanks, he said, sliding into the chair across from them. It's good to see you both. Julie smiled, but her eyes held a quiet question. We were worried, you just disappeared, she said. Greg nodded, knowing exactly how guilty that sounded. I had to go, he admitted carefully. I had to figure things out for myself. There were, and he paused, then said, complications. Michael leaned back, studying his old friend. Complication? Greg, you have always been honest with us. You ran just like that, said Michael. Greg's throat tightened. It wasn't easy. My parents, they had expectations. Arranged marriages, family wealth, a life I couldn't live. I couldn't be a part of it. And I couldn't tell anyone how bad it was. Greg throat tightened again. Julie reached out, resting a hand slightly on his arm. Greg, we get it, really. You were trying to survive, not just run. He looked at them, the faces of his oldest friend, and something inside him cracked. I was ashamed, he admitted. Ashamed that I had so much and felt empty. Ashamed that I couldn't let anyone in, even you too. I know I heard Ben, I heard Tessa and the kids, everyone. Sam, Ashley, I know. I just left. That's the best way I could have dealt with it all at the time. Michael shook his head. The familiar mix of exasperation and affection in his eyes. Man, we should have guessed. But Greg, you are here. And you are still you. Stronger, maybe. Julie's eyes glimmered. We missed you. Boston hasn't been the same without you, our favorite TikToker. I see that you also stopped posting. You know, but I get it. And now we see you. And now we see you have built a life here. We just want to understand, said Julie. Greg exhaled slowly. I have tried to make peace with the past. I have got my own life here now. A home, a purpose. And I'm starting my own medical practice. He paused, letting the words sink in. It's not exactly what they wanted, but it's mine, he said. Michael smiled knowingly. You have always been stubborn, Greg. But this is good. Really good. I think I'm beginning to like this for you, man. Julie leaned back, sipping her coffee. We just want to make sure you know we are proud of you, Greg, even if you left us in the dark. I'm just saying. You are still our friend, and we're glad you found something that makes you happy. That's all we really want from you. And also, let's us send her love. Oh my God, Greg. You should see how well your goddaughter is growing up. Not to mention also your nephew, Brent. Brent has come into his own. Also, he's going steady with that little missy of his. I do think they're going to get married soon. They're so soon as they finish uni at first. Greg's eyes pricked with moisture. He refused to show. Just hearing about the family and friends he left behind, something inside him trembled. Thanks. I needed to hear that, guys, more than you know. All bands, no truth. The three of them talked for hours, recounting old memories, laughing over shared adventures, and carefully skirting the wounds that time wouldn't fully heal. But beneath the laughter, Greg felt the familiar tug of responsibility, the weight of his secrets, the life he had left behind in Boston, and the cautious balance of his new existence in Jamaica. I just hope, he said quietly, that you both understand why I had to disappear the way I did, and that you don't judge the life I am trying to build now.
Thank you, Spingera. Thank you, my friend, for sticking
Michael
around.
reached over, pat his shoulder. Greg, you are not running from us. You have run to something better. That's what matters, truly. And that's why we're here, to truly fully understand what it is you have been through. And now we have seen that you are coming into your own, and we're proud of you, man. Julie nodded in agreement. And we will be here for you, always. But it sounds like there's more you are not telling us, Greg. Come on now. Greg looked down at his hands. I I am not ready to share yet. Not even with you too. It's complicated, like I said. Julie looked at him and gave him that knowing eye. All right, Greg, we'll wait. So Michael and Julie exchanged a glance, silently acknowledged the layers of Greg's life he had carefully concealed. And for the first time in years, Greg felt the relief of knowing he could exist in this space between past and present without judgment. They finished their coffee, standing to leave as the sun sank low into the horizon, painting the ocean in molten golden. Don't be a stranger again, Michael said. I won't, Greg promised, his voice firm. Julie smiled softly, and when we come back next year, we want to see the full life you have built here, my friend. Greg's heart tightened at the thought. You will, he said, a flicker of pride and fear mingling in his chest. You will. As he walked back to his car, the warm evening air brushed his face. Greg felt a strange mixture of nostalgia and hope. The past had caught up with him, but it didn't destroy him. It had reminded him that he could choose every day to live for himself, to protect his love for Amara, and to build a life that truly belonged to him. For the first time in a while, the weight of secrecy felt lighter. The path forward just a little clearer. Mine was crowded, tangled with fears, with faces and voices he hadn't thought of in years. The meeting with Michael and Julie the night before had been pleasant, even grounding, yet it had awakened something within him. Memories he tried to shelve, shadows he hoped to leave behind in Boston. He rose quietly, head into the kitchen where Amora was pouring coffee into mugs. The simple domesticity of her movements curled hair over her shoulder, reaching the sugar, made his chest ache in ways he couldn't quite explain. She came by early in the morning, seen as she was still on her leave. Morning, she said, turning with a smile. Sleep well? Greg forced a nod, taking the coffee she offered. Morning. Yeah. Slept okay. Amora tilted her head, scanning him carefully. You okay? You've been quieter. He hesitated. The words felt lodged in his throat. I am fine. Just thinking. Amora didn't press, but her presence was comforting, grounding him as the memories churned. He sipped his coffee slowly, remembering the faces of Michael and Julie, the laughter they shared, the warmth of their concern. But then other faces drifted in, the faces that pricked his conscience. Tessa, his first. Though it had been painfully one-sided, he had loved her secretly and quietly, cherished her from afar, even as she had moved through her own life without noticing the depth of his feelings. And now, thinking of her, he realized how much of himself he had left behind in Boston. Brent too. Brent the adopted son of Tessa and Ben, just 18, standing at the edge of manhood, while Greg had fled. He had missed his growth, his milestones, his troubles, and Ayana, his goddaughter, just 2 years old at the time. How
Morning.
many firsts had he missed? How many birthdays, first words,
Thank you.
scraped knees had passed while he was building a new life so far away? The guilt pressed in on him, tight and heavy, and he realized he had not fully processed it before fleeing. The meeting with Michael and Julie had reminded him of the people he left behind, the promises he hadn't kept, the relationships that had been fractured by his silence. Amora, sensing his withdrawal, came closer, resting her hand lightly on his arm. Greg, she said softly, you are carrying something. I can feel it. He looked down, meeting her eyes, and saw the quiet patience there. It's complicated, he admitted. Seeing himself, seeing Michael and Julie last night, it people I care about, people I didn't say goodbye to, just left them like that behind. And I feel guilty. I left when they were young, and I wasn't there for them. Amora nodded, listening intently. I get that. But you are here now. You are choosing your life, your path. Yes, he whispered, voice light. But part of me worries about Tessa, about Brett, about Ayana. I don't know if I should. He paused. If I should tell you about Tessa, my first love. Though it was a mutual, I never wanted it to be a burden on us and what we have. Her gaze softened, and she squeezed his arm gently. Gregory, you don't have to share everything all at once, but hiding things can make the weight heavier. I want to know. I want to know you all. I want to know you, all of you. But I'll wait until you're ready to tell me. Her words eased some of the tension, yet they also forced him to confront the truth. The past was still a part of him, and it always will be. Greg took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of her hand, the steady rhythm of her presence. For the first time in days, he felt he could let a small piece of his burden slide, at least enough to breathe. I am trying, he said finally, trying to balance what I left behind with what I have here. And with you, I don't want to lose this, us. Amara smiled, then said, you won't, not while I'm here. We will figure it out together, okay? She reassured. He closed his eyes, leaning into her, letting the guilt, the memories, the conflicting emotions wash over him and settled in the quiet company of someone who understands, even without words. For the rest of the morning, they sat there, holding hands, sipping coffee, listening to the distant waves. Greg's heart remained heavy with unresolved questions, but Amara's presence softened the edge of the past. In that small cocoon of warmth, he realized that while he couldn't undo what had happened in Boston, he could choose a life he wanted now. With Amora in Jamaica, building something unshakable from the pieces he had left behind. We have now come to the end of the video. As you can see and as you can hear, Amara and Greg, I've come to notice that each time they're having fun and enjoying each other, newly found love and closeness, and in their own little cocoon, something happened. Now, Greg have finally confessed about or tried to confess about this one-sided love that he had with this girl in the past, Tessa. And Amara, she seemed as if she's taking it in a good way, but is she covering up something, or is it that she have her own, what would you say, her own little secret that she haven't as yet bring to the forefront? But she seemed rather understanding at this point. But we don't know what is around the bend. So guys, I would say stay tuned. Stay tuned for the next episode so we can see how it all unfolds. And like I always say, Philippians 4 verse 30, I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me. So whatever you plan to do today, my darlings, do it to the best of your ability. And I just want to say love and appreciate you all, my darlings. Bye-bye. Welcome to my channel, Simply Michelle. Welcome to my channel, Simply Michelle. And happy Thursday. I hope that all is well in your neck of the woods. Thank you for those that will come after and support that video. I appreciate you all.
Yes, guys, so I'm just playing some of the reruns of my stories. They are not really in sequence.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Simply Michelle. If here for the first time, happy to have you. And of course, I have been reading the book called Chance at Love, written by moi, of course. Yes, and last week we have left off where Amara have gotten a call, and yes, the call have left her surprised and unsettled. So, my darlings, this is your new name. I like the name darling, and we have first been associates, and we are family over this side, and I feel comfortable in calling you my darlings. So that's the new name. If you don't like it, you can put that suggestion underneath in the comment section. Itching, my darlings. Hey, darlings, let's get right into that story and see what that phone call is all about. Amara, how long do you plan to waste your life like this? Her father snapped. A hotel job? Really? You think your degree from Edna Manley worth anything if you don't put it to proper use? Your mother and I didn't sacrifice so you could run around painting, waitressing, and dancing in an hotel. We told you before, nursing was the way to go. That is what you should have done, a real profession, yelled her dad. Her voice wavered. Daddy, I told you already that that's not what I want. I want, said Amara, stammering. One doesn't pay the bills, Amara. Want won't make us proud. You are wasting time. You are wasting your life. How long do you think this foolishness can last? You need to come to your senses, child. Her dad. The call ended as abruptly as it began, leaving a hollow silence in the atmosphere. When she came back into the room, Amara's face was pale, her jaw tight, but her eyes shone with unshed tears. She sank into the chair, clutching the edge of the table, seeking balance as the room felt like it was spinning. Greg rose quickly and rushed to her side. Amara, are you all right? Her shoulders trembled, and then the words poured out, raw and broken. Why? Why can't they just see me? Why? Is it never enough that I work hard, that I graduated with honors, that I followed my heart? Why must it always be about what they wanted? Why do I always feel like I am failing them? She cried. Greg crouched down beside her, gently taking her hands. He felt the heat of her warm arms, the small tremors running through her fingers. He wanted to take every wound, every scar left by those words and carry them himself. "Oh," he said softly, his voice steady, even as emotion pressed against his own throat. "You are not failing. You are more than enough. You are brilliant. You are brilliant. You are talented. And you have a heart most people would give anything for. If they could see that, it's their blindness, not it's their failure. If they fail to see you." Her tears spilled then, silent but fierce, and Greg pulled her into his arms. She didn't resist. She leaned into him, her forehead against his shoulder, her hands clutching his shirt. They stayed like that for a long time. They only sound the uneven rhythm of her breathing and the steady thump of their heart. That's the only sound that lingered in the room. When she finally pulled back, her face was streaked with tears, but there was softness in her gaze, a rawness that made Greg's breath hot. "Greg," she whispered, her voice shaky but firm. "Why do you always know exactly what to say?" He swallowed hard, his own chest tightened, with everything he still hadn't told her, everything he was holding back. "Because I know what it's like," he said simply, "to be unseen, to feel like no matter what you do, it's never enough," said Greg, knowing that his relationship with his parents were far from perfect himself. Something shifted in the air between them. The room seemed smaller, warmer, charged with an energy neither of them could deny any longer. Amara's eyes searched his, and Greg felt the pull, inevitably unstoppable. He lifted a hand, brushing a stray hair from her cheek. His fingers lingered longer than they should have. She didn't move away. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, closing the distance in the smallest but most profound way. Their lips met. It wasn't hurried or careless. It was tender at first, almost instant, then deepened, as though years of unspoken words, fears, desires were all unraveling in that one moment. Greg's hand slipped to the back of her neck, holding her close, while Amara's fingers curled into his shirt. The kiss was everything they have been circling, everything they have tried to hold back, and now neither of them wanted to. When they finally broke apart, restless, Amara leaned her forehead against his, eyes still staring into each other's depths. This, she cleared her throat. This feels dangerous, she muttered. Greg gave a shaky laugh. Then maybe it's worth it, don't you think? He asked. And for the first time, the line they have both been afraid to cross was no longer a line at all. It was a beginning. Chapter 23. The pull of something more. The kiss lingered long after it ended. Even as they moved about the house, even as Amara tried to tie the dishes she had abandoned, even as Greg shuffled papers on the counter to busy his hands, the weight of that moment pulsed between them, quiet but undeniable. Glance felt charge. Every brush of hand, every accidental touch seemed to ignite something neither of them was ready to name. Greg caught himself watching her as she rinsed the plate, her lips pressed together, her shoulders tense, as if she's tippy on one foot or toes. She wasn't humming now, wasn't teasing him. She was quiet, too quiet.
Hey, welcome,
Amara,
Joseph.
he said softly, leaning against the door frame. She looked up, her eyes meeting his for just a heartbeat before she looked away. Greg, she murmured, her tone uncertain, careful. There was silence again, heavy but not empty. It was filled with all the things they hadn't said, could not yet say. Later that evening, after she insisted on walking home instead of letting him drop her, Greg paced his new living room. The space felt too big, too small. Without her in it, his mind replayed the kiss over and over, each time tightening the knot in his chest. It had felt so right, so natural, and yet, behind the sweetness of it was weight. Secrets still lay between them like shadows. His silence about his past pressed on her, his warmth in his chest. Now then, and even before, and he feared that if he let himself fall, if he let her fall too, the truth would shatter it all. But he also knew this. He couldn't go back. No, he couldn't pretend it hadn't happened. He didn't want to. He refused to. Meanwhile, across town, Amara sat on the edge of her bed, her phone in her hand. Though she hadn't touched it for a long while, she peered at the wall, looking down after at the phone, her mind relaying Greg's voice, his hands. The way his lips had pressed to hers with such reverence, it made her knees weak. She felt flabbergasted, but still froze, sitting there on her bed. She exhaled shakily, pressing her palm to her face. Then she kicked her legs in the air. Why him? She whispered to herself. Then the reasoning replayed back to her as a question. Why now? She had promised herself after the heartbreak at Edna Manley, after the betrayal that had nearly broken her, that she would never give her heart so easily again. She had told herself she would guard it, hold it close, never let anyone in unless she was sure. And yet, with Greg, the walls seemed to crumble without her permission. With his kindness, his quiet strength, the way he looked at her as if she were not just enough, but everything. It made her feel seen in ways she hadn't known she needed. But what if he was hiding something? What if her father's doubts were right and she was only fooling herself again? She buried her face in her pillow, torn between the fire of attraction and the weight of fear. The next day, they met again. Amora coming by to help arrange curtains in Greg's sitting room. Neither mentioned the kiss at first, though it sat in the room with them like a third presence. Greg reached to adjust the curtain, and his hand brushed against hers. She froze as they stood there, wrapping their hands around the linen. Her breath catching, he hesitated, eyes meeting hers. Amora, he said, his voice low. Her heart raced. She wanted to step closer, to lean into him again, but the fear of what it might mean tethered her to the floor. She stepped back. Instead, her voice trembling. Greg, we can't. We shouldn't rush this. He swallowed. The sting of her retreat pricked at him, but he nodded slowly. I know. I don't want to rush either. He paused, searching for the right word. I don't want to pretend it didn't happen, Amara, but her gaze. Her fingers twisted in the curtain. Neither do I. The truth of it hung between them, fragile and precious. The days that followed were pushed and pulled. One evening, Greg brought her flowers from the market. Her favorite hibiscus, yes, their vibrant red petals bold against her hands. She smiled. Her heart softened, but later that same night, she pulled back, telling herself not to get lost in him. Another afternoon, Amara invited him into her community, showing him a small cafe where she often painted. They laughed together over cold drinks, their shoulders brushing as they leaned over watching a sketch on the table that she had previously painted. The air buzzed with the coldness, but then her fear whispered again, and she reminded him firmly, we are just friends. Right now, convinced at all. It sounded more as if she's trying to convince herself. It was torture, sweet, aching, torture. Greg found himself caught between respect and longing. He admired her strength, her boundaries, the way she fought to protect her heart. But every time she pulled away, he felt something inside him tearing, something desperate to reach across the gap and hold her close again. One night, as they stood outside her home after he walked her back, the tension reached its peak again. She lingered at the gate, her hand resting on it but not opening it yet. He stood close, too close. The night air thickened around them. Amora, he said, his voice rough. Tell me to stop if this is too much. Her breath hitched, her eyes locking onto his. Greg, she whispered. The words seemed to still. The casadas hummed, the stars burned overhead, and for one suspended heartbeat, they were joined together again, lips almost brushing, before she stepped back with shaking hands and gently pushing him away. I can't. she whispered. At least not yet. Greg's chest ached, but he nodded, his jaw tightening. I'll wait, as long as it takes, Samara. Her eyes softened, filling with something between fear and hope. Just don't break me, Greg, she responded. He swallowed hard, fighting the truth clawing inside him. Never, never, my love. As she slipped inside and the gate clicked shut, Greg stood in the quiet street, his heart heavy but burning, his head down. They were on the edge of something neither of them could control anymore. The closeness was undeniable, the attraction fierce, but the fears and secrets still hung and held between them. And he knew sooner or later the dam would break. Chapter 24. The truth between them. The night pressed heavy against the windows, the sound of waves faint in the distance. Greg sat on the edge of his couch, his elbows on his knees, staring at his hands as if the answer to his turmoil were written there. For days now, he and Amora had circled each other, pulled close by force neither could deny, only to retreat in fear the moment it grew too strong. Tonight, something in him snapped. He couldn't take the circling anymore. When Amora arrived, her laughter brightened the house at once. She had brought a basket of fresh fruit from the market, placing it on this counter as if she had done it 100 times before. You really need more color in here, she teased, pulling out mangoes, oranges, and ripe bananas. You live like a bachelor, Greg. Too plain, don't you think? He smiled faintly, but his chest was tight. Maybe I was waiting for someone to fix it all for me. The words made her pause. Her eyes met. Something in his tone, raw, stripped of pretense, made her heart beat, stumble. They sat together at the table, the ear charged, the silence speaking louder than their small talk. Amara fell with a piece of fruit, peeling it slowly as if buying something or some time. Greg drummed his fingers against his leg, every muscle taut. Finally, she set the fruit down and whispered, Greg, I can't keep doing this. He swallowed. Doing what? Dance. This pretending we are not whatever this is. Every time you look at me, I feel like feel it in my bones. And then you pull away. I need to know if it's real or if I'm fooling myself, she said. The words pierced him. He leaned back, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. His secret burned on his tongue, but fear clamped it down again. Amora, he said, his voice breaking. It's real. It is as real as the breath we breathe. Or it's real. But I am afraid. I must admit, he said. She leaned closer, her eyes searching his. Afraid of what? Greg stood suddenly, pacing the room, running a hand through his hair. His body trembled, not from anger, but from the sheer weight of what he was about to say. I am afraid if I tell you the truth, you will see me differently, Amora. That you will think less of me, that you maybe will even walk away, he said in frustration. Greg, her voice was soft, coaxing. Tell me. He stopped, turning to her, his eyes glittered under the lamplight, raw with shame and vulnerability. I I am a virgin, Amara. There, I said it. The words felt like stone, heavy, unpolished. He exhaled shortly as though finally tearing free of a chain. I've never with anyone, not because I didn't have the chance or even many opportunities, trust me. At Harvard, it would have been easy, but because I couldn't, I didn't want to give myself away where there wasn't love and where I come from. That's weakness. At my age, it's pathetic. And I have carried that shame with me for years, he expressed. The silence stretched long and unbearable. Greg's shoulders sobbed. He couldn't bring himself to meet her eyes. And then a moral laugh. Not cruelly, not mockingly, softly, like the sound of water breaking over stones. Greg's head snapped up, wounded. You think this is funny? He asked. She rose and crossed the room, taking his face gently in her hands. Her eyes were shimmering, but not with judgment, with tears. Greg, she whispered. I am laughing because so am I. So am I. His breath caught. What? Really? She nodded, her own vulnerability pouring out now. I am a virgin too. After everything with that boy and the manly, after how he betrayed me, after how my parents blamed me, I swore I would never give myself away unless it was real, unless it was safe, unless it was love, and it is something permanent. Greg blinked, stunned, the tension flooding out of him like tide. His knees nearly buckled with relief. You mean you didn't think I am weak? He asked with a surprised look on his face. Her thumb brushed against his cheek. Weak? Greg, I think it makes you stronger than most. You waited. You respected yourself enough to wait. That isn't weakness. That's worth. Something inside him broke open. Then, not with shame, but with release. All the years of secrecy, of silence, of carrying the burden of what others might think, dissolved under her gaze. Their lips met again, but this kiss was different. It wasn't born of hesitation or fear. It was fierce. Desperate yet tender. Two souls colliding in truth at last. His hands framed her face. Hers clutched his shirt as though anchoring herself to him. When they pulled apart, both breathless, Greg pressed his forehead to hers. Amora, you don't know what you have just given me. For the first time, I feel like I can breathe, he whispered. And for the first time, she whispered back, I feel like I don't have to run. They stood there in the quiet, their secrets no longer trails, but threads weaving them closer. And for the first time, their band wasn't built on what they hid. It was built on what they shared. Chapter 25. In the light of each other. The days that followed, Greg's confession felt different. Subtle at first, then unmistakably so. It was as if a veil had been lifted and the world around them was brighter, sharper, more alive. For so long, their connection had been marked by tension, by retreat and advance, by the invisible boundaries of unspoken fears. But now, with the truth between them, something shifted. They were still careful, still gentle, but it was no longer a dance of hesitation. It was the steady walk of two people daring to finally stand side by side. Morning light. Amara woke in Greg's home the next morning, not because she had stayed the night, but because for the first time she allowed herself to linger past the early hours. She had fallen asleep on his couch after they spent the late night talking, pouring out stories from childhood, the scars they carried and the dreams they were too shy to see before. She started awake to the scent of fresh coffee and laughter from the kitchen. She padded in still barefoot. Greg was at the stove, his shirt sleeves rolled up, humming under his breath as he scrambled eggs with surprising confidence. You are cooking, she teased, leaning against the doorway. He glanced over his shoulder, a sheepish grin tugging his lips. Don't look so shocked. Harvard may not have taught me how to fry an egg, but living alone in Boston did. I can manage the basics, he said, smiling. A more laugh. The sound, the sound light and warm. I believe it when I taste it, Mr. James. He set a plate before her at the counter, the eggs steaming beside thick slices of bread he had toasted. She took a bite. Every brow breeze. Mmm, not bad, Dr. James. Not bad at all, she said. The way he looked at her then, like her approval meant more than any exam, grade, or hospital commendation, made her chest swell. Walking side by side later that day, they walked along 7 Miles Beach. The sun was gentle, the waves lapping quietly at their feet for once. Greg reached out without hesitation, letting his fingers thread with hers. Amara looked down at their joint hands, smiled softly. This feels, she paused, finishing the sentence. Greg squeezed her hand. It feels right. He finished it for her. They walked for hours, talking about everything and nothing. What kind of curtains Greg should get for the rest of the house, which restaurants serve the best jerk chicken, which novels Amora loved as a teenager. Greg found himself laughing more freely than he had in years. He wasn't forced, wasn't measured. It was real. At one point, Amara stopped to pick up a shell, holding it up to the light. Greg watched her quietly, his heart swelling with something that was no longer just attraction. It was reverence. The safe place. Evenings became their sanctuary. After long days of Greg meeting with contractors for his medical practice, just to put finishing touches, always trying to upgrade. That was Greg. And Amora managing her shifts at the hotel. They would retreat to his new house together. They unpacked more furniture, argued playfully over where to put the bookshelf, and collapsed onto the couch in fits of laughter. One evening, as Amara folded a pile of laundry for him, Greg leaned against the wall, just watching her. What? She asked, noticing his gaze. You, he said simply. Just you, my dear. Folding laundry in my house, acting like you have always been here. It feels like, he hesitated, his throat tightened. It feels like home. Her eyes softened while setting the shirt down, crossing to him. She touched his face lightly, her thumb brushing his jaw. You have carried so much alone, Greg. Maybe it's time you let someone carry it with you. He kissed her then, not fierce, not desperate, but tender. It was a kind of kiss that didn't demand anything, beyond presence. And in that kiss, he felt her words take root. Laughter in the rain. One afternoon, while running errands and sudden pour caught them on the street, instead of rushing for cover, Amora spun in the rain, her dress clinging as she laughed, arms stretching wide. Come on, Greg, she shouted, her curls plastering her face. Come on, let's enjoy the rain. This is Jamaica. Enjoy the beauty of freedom and the simplicity of life, she said as she turned around in the rain. He shook his head at first, but when she reached for his hand, tugging him into the rain, he gave in. They laughed together, soaked to the bone, spinning like children with no weight on their shoulders, pressed but neither cared. By the time they ducked under a small shop, their laughter had faded into breathless gaps. Their threads spread together as water dripped down their faces. In that silly, unplanned moment, they found joy that felt like freedom. At night, wrapped in blankets on the couch, they talked again, not about secrets this time, but about dreams. Greg confessed he wanted his practice to be more than just a clinic. He wanted it to be a place where people, especially the poor and overlooked, felt dignity when they walked through the doors. I don't just want to heal bodies, Amora. I want to heal hearts. Amora in turn admitted that though her father pushed nursing, her dream had always been art. Design, colors, creating beauty from scraps. She whispered it as though embarrassed, but Greg's face lit up. Then you should do it, he said fiercely. Don't hide it. If it's what makes you come alive, Amara, you owe it to yourself to chase it. The conviction in his voice broke something open inside her. For years, she had heard only criticisms, only demands. To hear someone believe in her so fully, it made her eyes sting with tears. Greg, she whispered, voice trembling, I think I am falling for you. The words slipped out before she could stop herself, and she froze, wide-eyed, but Greg only smiled, his own chest loosening. Good, he whispered back, pulling her closer, because I am already falling for you. As the night deepened, they didn't need to kiss or touch more than the simple holding of hands beneath the blanket. The intimacy was already there, in safety of confession, in the warmth of laughter, in the stillness of knowing they no longer had to circle each other. For the first time, both of them allowed themselves to believe, truly believe, that this was love. And guys, we will take a pause here for today. Yes, so there you have it. Greg and Amara have fallen deeply and hopelessly in love. So stay tuned. Let us see if, alright, this will be a smooth sail, or what is around the bend, as we say in Jamaica. What is awaiting them around the corner? Will something be there to trigger their newly found happiness and serenity? Well, you have come thus far to end the video. Remember to thumbs it up and share it out. And if you have not yet subscribed, you are new here, my darling, welcome. Here we see each other as friend, as family, and we address each other as darlings, because we feel safe with each other, enjoying each other's company as we listen to the quality fun and, what would you say? You tell me. Suspenseful, or steamy, or What is it? We call our stories. You have to listen. Listen carefully. Then you can make your own conclusion. And thank you for coming in once again. Always say Philippians 4, verse 13. I, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So whatever you find to do today, do it to the best of your ability. Bye bye. Bye bye, my darling. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Simply Michelle. And guys, I just want to express how grateful I am that you guys have made the promise a success and that book has completed. And stay tuned tonight for the brand new reading, Love, written by moi, of course. But before we get into it, I just want to say thanks and express my gratitude to you all. And I know that you have enjoyed the promise, so I know you will also enjoy Chance at Love. And for those of you who have been faithful to the previous book, you will see what this one is about and how it may or may not link to the other. So stay tuned. And yeah, so without itching, let's get right into Chance at Love, written by moi first. Chapter 1, The Runaway. The Caribbean sun was nothing like the one back home. It didn't just shine. It passed against Greg's skin, heavy, relentless, as if daring him to forget the cold ache of where he had come from. The sea glimmered in the shifting blues, endless and alive, and for the first time in months, he felt the slightest release of breath. He had left without a word, no note, no explanation, just gone. And though guilt tugged at him when he thought of the faces he had abandoned, the truth was it was simple. He hadn't been able to stay, not then, maybe not forever. Jamaica was loud in a way that drowned out thought. The patter of voices in the markets, the smell of roasted jerk drifting through the streets, the blare of taxis waving through the narrow lanes. It was messy and unpolished, but it was alive. And Greg needed that kind of noise to silence his own. He sat at a small wooden bar facing the beach, a sweating glass of rum in front of him, the air smell of salt and spice, and the music from a nearby speaker rolled like a heartbeat, steady, defiant. He was a stranger here, but no one asked questions. That was what he liked. And then there was her. She wasn't the kind of woman, a woman that Greg had imagined himself falling for. Younger, bold in a way that unsettled him, with a sharp laugh that carried across the sand like it owned the air. Her hair was twisted into thick braids that brushed against her shoulders, and she wore no shoes, even at the door. She leaned back in her chair, like the world couldn't touch her. You look lost, stranger, she said, eyes locking on his. Her accent curled around the words, warm and teasing. Greg gave a half smile. Maybe I am. She tilted her head, studying him for a minute, just a bit too long, then grinned. Good. Jamaica don't need people who know exactly who they are. We need the ones still finding out, she said. He laughed, despite himself. Something about her was disarming, raw, unpredictable, unorthodox. She didn't carry herself like someone waiting for life to happen. She carried herself like she was life, daring others to keep up. My name is Amora, she said, sliding his glass toward him before raising her own. Welcome to Jamaica, Greg. Whether you come to wheel, to hide, or to fall apart, it no matter. Here, you just have to start again. Their glasses clicked as he gazed up at her after she spoke, trying to comprehend it all. The sound sharp against the lull of the waves, and for the first time since he had walked away from everything, some would say run away, Brett felt the edge of possibility, dangerous and alive. Maybe he hadn't come here to disappear. Maybe he had come here to begin. Chapter 2, Amara. Amara didn't walk so much as glide barefooted across the hot sand, waving between locals and greeting her with nods, and tourists who stared a little too long. She was known here, not famous, not exactly, uh, but the kind of person you remembered after one meeting. She wasn't easy. Greg watched her as she moved, wondering why he couldn't look away. It wasn't just her beauty, though that was undeniable. It was her defiance, the way she seemed carved out of contradictions. Later, when she settled across from him at the bar, he finally asked, So, what do you do, Amora? She laughed, throwing her head back, the sound sharp and alive. Which day are you talking about? Yesterday, I was teaching dance classes. This morning, I was selling bracelets to tourists. Tomorrow, who knows? Maybe I'll be singing at a cafe if the mic no mash up again. Half smiling. So, let me get it right. You do everything? He inquired. I do what I want, she corrected, sipping from her glass, of course. I don't live in boxes. My mother wanted me to be a nurse, like her. My father said I should be a lawyer, like my cousin. Ooh, my cousin. Me? I didn't want none of it. I wanted life wide, not narrow, she explained. Gwen felt something stirred inside him at her words. She had no plan, no title, no carefully built stability. And yet, she radiated a wholesomeness he couldn't quite understand. She caught him staring. Why are you watching me like that? She asked. He hesitated, then answered honestly. Because you don't fit. You don't move like people I know. Most people I meet are chasing something, money, titles, respect even. You seem like you already caught whatever it is everyone else is chasing, said Greg. Amora leaned back closer, feeling intrigued. Her smile softer now, less playful, more dangerous. Maybe that's why you were here. Because you had everything they told you to chase, and still it wasn't enough. Huh? Am I right? The words hit him deeper than he expected. He had built a life back home, success, respect, stability. But here, on this island, with the barefoot woman who lived outside the rules, he felt exposed. Amara didn't press. She just leaned back, humming along to the reggae beat drifting from the bar speaker, as though the silence was hers to command. Greg realized then why she unsettled him. She wasn't trying to impress him, no, not at all, or fix him, or even fully understand him. She simply was. And in her presence, he wasn't Dr. Greg or the missing man everyone was searching for. He was just himself. Unorthodox, he thought, wasn't about being reckless or wild. It was about living without apology. And maybe, just maybe, that was what drew him to her most of all. Chapter 3, Cracks in the Light. The night had cooled, the heat of the day given way to soft breeze that carried the scent of the sea. Greg and Amora sat on the beach, their drinks long to finish, their feet buried in the sand, cool as the wave blew and hit their feet back and forth. For a while, they just listened to the rhythm of the waves, to the faint sound of music drifting from a party down the shore, to the silence that stretched between them. Amara broke it first. So tell me, Greg, she said lightly, what did you run from? He stiffened. He hadn't expected her to ask it outright. Who says I'm running, or I have run? He asked. Her eyes glittered in the moonlight, sharp but not unkind. Everybody running from something, even me. He studied her. You? He asked. You don't seem like you are running at all. You seem free, he expressed. She gave a short laugh. But it didn't reach her eyes. That's the trick, stranger. When you move fast enough, people think you're flying. The truth is, sometimes you're just running so no one catch you. Greg frowned. Catch you? He asked. Amora looked away, out at the black horizon. For a moment, her mask slipped. My brother, she said softly, and older than me by 5 years. He was a star, good at school, disciplined. Everything I wasn't. Mama poured all her dreams into him. But she stopped, biting her lip. He got into trouble. Real trouble. Prison type of trouble. He's been there 3 years now. And the saddest part of it, he was innocent. Just at the wrong place at the wrong time. But in these parts of the world, when all you have is in your integrity, it's hard. Sometimes, even just because of the color of your skin, you are a job and placed into confinement. Greg stayed silent, letting her speak. Amaro's voice grew thinner, more fragile than he ever heard. It's Mama. Mama didn't talk about him. She just acted like he's dead. She looked at me and see what he could have been. So when I said I wasn't going to be a nurse or a lawyer or anything proper, according to what she liked, she said, I was a waste too, a second failure. The words hung in the air, sharp as broken glass. Greg leaned closer. So you live the wide, like you said, not because you're careless, but because you don't want to be measured by anyone's standards. You refuse to play their game. He asked. Her jaw tightened, but she nodded. If I fail, it will be on my own choice, not because I tried to live somebody else's life. She turned her face back to him, and for once, her usual spark was gone. That's my wound, Greg. I laugh loud and I dance barefoot, but deep down, I am still the girl they don't believe in, expressed Amora. Greg felt something stiffen inside him. For the first time since arriving in Jamaica, he wasn't just distracted. He was connected. She wasn't just a wild flame on the beach. She was someone scared, someone raw, someone human. He reached out, brushed his fingers against the back of her hand. Then they are mine, Amara, because from where I am sitting, you are the bravest person I have ever met, full of life and spark. It's like you embody truth. Yes. She didn't move. Then, slowly, she lays her fingers with his without thinking. And for a long while, she didn't move. And just like that, beneath the Caribbean moonlight, Greg understood. He hadn't only found an escape here on the island. He had found someone who carried her own brokenness just as he carried his. Two runners, two roads, two stories colliding in the sand. Chapter 4. What the Night Demands. The moon hung low, silver spilling across the Caribbean like spilled wine. The hotel's late night crowd had thinned, and Amora had just finished her second set. Greg waited at the bar as usual, but tonight she didn't smile when she saw him. She walked straight over, dropped onto the stool beside him, and studied his face in silence. You hide too much, she finally said, looking at him. Greg blinked. What do you mean? She asked. I mean, she leaned in, voice low. You sit here every night, like the sea is going to wash your troubles away. But the ocean don't heal wounds you won't name, she said. Greg shifted in his seat. He had come here because no one knew him, because no one asked. And now, here was Amora, crying at the edges of the silence he thought he needed. Maybe I just like the music, he said carefully. She shook her head. No, you like me. And you like that I don't let you pretend. Admit it. The words hit harder than he expected. He looked away, swallowing back the sting of truth. Amara's gaze softened, but she didn't let it go. So tell me, Greg, why Jamaica? Why now? A man don't just leave his life behind without a reason, you know. Greg's throat tightened. Images flickered. Ben's worried face. The circle of friends searching the woods, the weight of promises he never knew how to keep. The strains of Ohio and Boston. He drained his glass, then set it down too hard. You want the truth? His voice came out rougher than intended. Yes, she said simply. He exhaled, long and heavy. I didn't come here for the sun or the music. I came here because he suddenly paused. I couldn't breathe anymore. Back home, everyone wanted something. An answer, strength, hope. I didn't have any left to give, so I ran. The admission hung between them, jagged. Amara's expression flickered. Sympathy, then something sharper. So, you left them? The people who love you? She asked. Greg winced. The question sliced deeper than she knew. I didn't mean to hurt them, God knows. But you did. Her voice was steady, not cruel, just relented. You are not the only one running, Greg. But running don't free you. It trains you, you know, man, she said. The first time since arriving, Greg felt something like anger sparked in his chest. And what would you know about my chains? Amara didn't flinch at the question he asked angrily. She leaned closer, her eyes burning into his. Because I carried my own, she said. The silence after that was thick, humming with unspoken things. Greg realized then Amara wasn't just calling him out. She was inviting him into her own shadows. But he wasn't sure he was ready to go there. Not yet. And guys, there you have it. We will pause here for today. Yes, the beginning of Chance at Love. Don't be shy. Text and share in the comment section what you think about this new story. And for those of you who have been following the previous story, The Promise, you will know the connection, where Greg is coming from and all of this, and what this means for Greg. Because in the story, The Promise, he wasn't the one that was talkative and was sociable. He was more jaw back, you knew less of him. So now is the time for you to find out what is the happenings with Greg. Why did he run? And Greg, now you find out he ran to Jamaica of all the places. From Boston to Jamaica is a long distance. But yet this guy have no relative here, not even friends. But here he is in Island of the Sun. So let me not get into any more. But guess what? I need to know what you think of the story so far, Chance at Love. Will he find it? Hey, come on, talk up in the comment section. Let me know what are your thoughts. Predict evil and let us see who's right from who is. But you know, we have come to the end once more. And thank you, thank you. If you're here for the first time, you have already watched and listened. So subscribe, share, share with your friends, and support this channel, you know, and become a part of a Super Mission family, and we welcome you with open arms. And for all our long-time members, guys, yes, The journey begins with chance at love. So, like I always say, Philippians 4, verse 13. I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me. So whatever I to do it to the best of your ability. Bye bye. Welcome back to my channel, Simply Mission, and happy to have you. Of course, today's Saturday, happy Saturday, and short story, then we will get to our discussion. So, the story for today is, I didn't believe in second chances, but now I am a firm, big believer. And of course, these short stories are also by law. And I have regular videos of stories that are continuation. Regular on Wednesday. Well, we are airing now on Wednesday. Well, that's a good day. At 4 o'clock on 4 o'clock. So, check out the story that running on Wednesday. It is called Chance at Love. And you will love it. So, run over there after this and check out those videos. So, without each other, let's get right. You know what? Let us wait a second. Because, my darlings, on a Saturday, I think it's Sunday or something. Anyway, I'm a lady of faith. So I hope that you guys will remain on the live once you have the time. You're unrolling, you're maybe shopping, because we know that we are in the month of December. And that is the month of la 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 la. It's the time to be jolly. Yeah, so a lot of persons are out doing their Christmas shopping, you know, and those who are celebrating. Yes, so I know it will take us a bit, but nevertheless, as you come in, thumbs up the video. Yes, because you know it really matters. Yeah, so welcome in. And once you're here, you will see the title of the story. So yeah, without itching, let's run into it. Everyone in Sandal Bridge, a small Jamaican village surrounded by mango trees, dirt roads, Stu, Maria, and Sam. The villagers used to laugh and say that two of them were like ducks. Where you see one, you definitely see the other. From kindergarten friends to schoolyard marbles to high school dreams and the football team, they were inseparable. At 15, love didn't have a name yet, but it had a present. Warm, innocent, and growing like sunshine. Until the day reality knocked. Samuel, mother, died suddenly. In the grief, ocean, his father living in the United States returned home and decided his son would be with him. Sandal Ridge mourned twice, once for the mother and once for the band they were sure was meant to last forever. Chapter 1. Deep in Culture. Bless you, sister, blessed life journey. Welcome in, my sister. Thank you for the thumbs up. Right. On the morning, Samuel let Mario walk into the bus station, with him holding hands in the school bag like it was her last defense. Mario, said with trembling voice, you will rise. You write to me, right? You won't forget me, right, Samuel? With a soft smile and steady voice, Samuel responded, I can't forget you, even if I try. He was trying to be Marian's heart broke. She cried until her mother brought her home. That night, she entered her room and something changed in her forever. Chapter 2. Growing with an empty space. Life didn't pause for heartbreak. Marian's parents pushed her to study, to focus. You are young. You will meet someone someday. She heard all of it, but her heart answered only to one name. In late evenings, she sat on the veranda, watching the road, imagining him walking back with the same bright smile, but he wouldn't. She still hoped. The hope faded. Eventually, an aunt living in Kingston offered Maria a place so she could pursue her dream of becoming a teacher. She left the village carrying two things, a suitcase and a love that never left her. Years passed like shifting waves. She graduated with honors, taught with passion, and eventually ran a scholarship that carried her further than she ever expected to the United States, the same place where Samuel disappeared. She became a lecturer at a respected college, admired, respected, and surrounded by new opportunities. But some dreams never retired. Chapter 3. Samuel's journey. The United States shaped Samuel into a man with sharp suits and sharp ambitions. Pain became fuel, loss became hunger. He became a corporate lawyer, successful, respected, the problematic window. He had a close friend and friend whose name was Helena. She was intelligent, poised, and patient, and admired Samuel deeply, and tried more than once to turn their friendship into something else. But Samuel, being the man that he is, would not allow himself. But something in him always paused. He would say, I am not ready, Helena. What he meant was, my heart is not free. He never forget the girl who cried at the bus station, that the one behind the bus, trying to keep up, as he sat at the back of the bus, waving, and tears equally run down his face. When he looked at the city skyline at night, he wondered what she became. Was she still the girl who believed love could survive distance? Chapter 4. The coffee shop. It was a rainy morning in Washington, D.C. A coffee shop with wooden walls, jazz music, and the smell of cinnamon arbor food. Marian entered, holding a folder of student essays, her hair wrapped neatly, her face glowing with confidence, nice and built. She took a seat, waiting for her latte. Across the room, Samuel was going through case files. He looked up, and the world stopped. For a moment, he wasn't a lawyer. He wasn't a boy with one shoes in the slander's ring, arguing over who got the bigger mango or orange juice, or who stirred played marble. His breath caught. Samuel, as he hurried above a whisper, Maria. She turned slowly, Her hand shook. With a soft voice, she uttered, "Samuel?" There was no movie like run and home, only stillness, sacred. The coffee shop faded, 15 years faded, fame faded. Two hearts that waited recognized each other instantly. Chapter 5. Coffee Conversations and Confessions. They sat by the window, rain painting the glass as it beat heavily. The conversation started cautiously, jobs, their dreams, and their life. But it didn't take long to slide into moods, memories, and the truth. I was hungry too for years, but I kept believing that if it was meant to be, God would make a way. There were times I was so bitter. I called you names. I even tried to hate you at one point, but my heart betrayed me, said Mario. I'll try to move on with her, Elena. She's been close to me, said Samuel as he continued. Everyone said he was right there in front of me. Everyone said she was right there in front of me, but I couldn't give her what I didn't have anymore. My heart has stayed 15 years for a long time back in the village. Tears gathered, not from her, but from me. Maria looked at him, listened tentatively to every word, as her mind started to swirl like a whirlwind in the dark. Who the heck is Helena? She thought to herself. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside the room, washing away everything spoken. Chapter 6. The second chance. Days turned into weeks. They met again and again. Walks near the river, late dinners, long talks. So, I know that maybe I have no right to question your this matter. Nevertheless, I remember you mentioned Eleanor the other day. So, when are we really going to talk about her? Who is she? Samuel is hard to get to home. Not sure how to answer this question. She is just colleague and a friend. A really good friend who I think have a great interest in me, but you know what, let's talk about something. Something he said. And Marian no better than so accountable. Nevertheless, she hoped she will revisit the conversation. Chapter 6. The second chance. Days turned to weeks. They met again and again, once near the river, late dinners, long talks. Not the fantasy of teenage love, but the maturity of old hearts. They learned each other again, the new habits, the changed dreams, the scars stand creative. Eleanor saw it. She tried to fight it, but she was too wise to live in denial. One day, she told Samuel, some love does hurt. Some love never ends. So Samuel, this is what I'm going to say to you. You already know my feelings towards you, but I can see that you're all so devoted to that. Now this is your else I don't know. And she paused. He didn't deserve her grace, but he accepted it with gratitude. Chapter 7. The Return. Months later, they decided to return to Sandal Village together, both Marion and Samuel. When they walked into the village square, older fences glittered. Children ran past them, chasing a football. Mango trees stood like Miss Curly stood in her doorway, hand over her chest. Me knew it. From that time, me knew that it would be over. Oh Lord, the baby's coming to she cried from her shop door as the two young people greeted her and gave her a hearty hug, and she kissed their faces as if she'd given them her blessing. The village celebrated, not because two people fell in love, but because destiny completed its circle. On the old
That's enough, Rooster. Go already. That's enough.
I thought, I didn't believe in second chances. Now I am a firm believer, said Samuel. She leaned her head on his shoulder, the same way she imagined she would, long ago, when she would have missed him. And the sunset, the same sun that witnessed their tears, now witnessed their joy. Samuel pulled her closer and said, Maria, I remember months ago when you asked about the love. I didn't want to answer them because I didn't want to give the wrong impression. I didn't want to stand a chance of giving you that impression and even get this connection or be here where you are now. But nevertheless, I feel a sense of responsibility, like you do deserve to know so you can play it well. Nothing happened between Eleanor and I. However, there was a time that we were very close, where she would be my companion at dinner, lunch, and even early morning coffee. And I felt it. So, she also saw me and realized what we had was even greater than what she had hoped to be. So she decided to walk away. Not to say that there had been anything, because I know that my heart was already there. Aaron looked up into his eyes and said, you silly boy, don't you think I already know that? Or surprised that? What we have together, I do not take it for granted. Neither do I believe it was just a chance. But I believe it was definitely a different one. So, let us enjoy our time together as we continue our path and discover what is in store for our future. Epilogue. Love that waited without closing. They didn't know what the future would bring. Marriage, children, career, journey. But they knew this. Some love goes deeper than distance. Some goes meet young, separate, grow, and find their way home. But not because they tried to force destiny, because destiny never forget them. And that's the end of the story. Hey, Misha Bless. Welcome, welcome, Misha. Happy to have you. Misha said, blessings, God will. Hey, big up God will and bless you, Sister Blessed. Thank you guys for being here. Sister Blessed said, blessings, God will as well. You're all greeting each other beautiful. So, a short by love we left behind. Their lives collide 15 years later in a coffee shop, but their reunion is tested by Eleanor, a woman who truly cared for something and family. Family pressure that warns that love will cost their colors. In the end, destiny wins. They return to their village, proving that some promises are stronger than time. Yes, guys, so that was the story. And yeah, short story. And the moral of the story is that, sometimes in life, even as parents, children form friendships, and we will say, you need to go for the home, or take, maybe the children take it so deep, and we know as children, things changes, life changes. And, one may move away, or move to a different community, whatever. But because of the closeness, it can become so scary to us as parents. But the moral of the story is, at the end of the day, we really don't know. When two heart tended, the Lord is the one who really have the last say. The worst is His will. Some of it sometimes is just ways of that. But in this story, it was definitely the will of the Lord. Wherein, and you have that also in real life, where you have friendships that form from kindergarten, primary, right up to high school, or even university, and different walks of life. But those friendships become permanent. Even though the persons, whether it's love interest or not, even though they may not have seen each other for over 10 years or even longer or shorter, but the conviction that they have, time is not erased. And so it takes them into something more permanent the second time around. So some people really do get their second chances. So never say that, oh, the children are too young, or, you're taking it too seriously, you need to study your books. That is true, yeah. But sometimes it's better to faster, to observe and faster. Or even to give unbiased advice, letting the teenagers know that their feelings is valuable, right? Acknowledge the feelings and still give them pep talk, because we do know if it is the will of God or destiny, then you will find yourself together. Good. Alright, so let me read some of the comments. Right, so everyone was reading on the top, on the beginning. So thank you for the lovers. Alright, so Sister Bridget said, very interesting. Yeah, yes, Sister Bridget. Sometimes in life these things happen. And even my person from the country, you have some foundation friends that we thought that it was matter of fact, I had 5 friends. Me, Angelina and Marian, they were sisters. Charlotte and Sharon, they were sisters. So we were all friends and cousins, and 5 of us used to go. And we think that that would be the 5 of us for a Red Rock. And we went to the same primary, same high school, but then I moved away from Westmoreland and all that. And of course, we were going to have a Christmas and whatever. So as you start developing the adulthood, the priorities change. If you bump into each other, see each other well, but if we don't, that's it and all that. But yet we thought that would have gone the long haul and everything. And we did cry together, we did have crushes together. But when I look back, out of all the crushes, nobody would get together. So, it's crazy. So sometimes in life, you cannot make permanent decisions towards whatever situation. But it was different from Marian in this story and Samuel. They had something special. And even as parents, sometimes we may never understand it. But I would say, just listen, as them have something to listen and don't judge, and it's your child. Just acknowledge that they are feeling this way about someone. And guide them, give them honest guidance.
Alright, guys.
The future is unknown.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening, for coming in, for supporting. I do appreciate each and every one of you, one of your time Yeah, so thanks again, and we do say bye for today, and not bye, but later. All right, so yeah, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Yeah, I'm here still busy, and I know that some of you guys are at work even while listening. So thank you, my darlings. Appreciate you all. Until we meet again in these YT streets, I say bye bye.